recount efforts underway for 3 different states. And breaking news minutes ago with Michigan certifying the state's election results, declaring Trump the winner, which sets up a Wednesday deadline for Green Party presidential nominee Jill Stein to request a recount there. Today, Stein also filed for an election recount in the state of Pennsylvania. And the Wisconsin Election Commission announced today a recount of that state's presidential results could happen as early as next week. Stein's efforts, now joined by the Clinton camp, sparked a weekend Twitter storm from President-elect Trump, who called the recount bid a scam. Kellyanne Conway used another word to describe the Stein and Clinton campaign efforts.
This recount by Jill Stein and now the Hillary people is just so confounding and disappointing. Their president, Barack Obama, is going to be in office for 8 more weeks, and they have to decide whether they're going to interfere with him finishing his business, interfere with the peaceful transfer of power to President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Pence, or if they're going to be a bunch of crybabies and sore losers about an election that they can't turn around.
Green Party presidential nominee Dr. Jill Stein joins me now. So, Dr. Stein, are you a crybaby and a loser?
Well, unfortunately, or shall we say fortunately, it's not about me. It's about the American people who emerged from this election as not happy campers. 80% of Americans, according to a New York Times poll, were disgusted by the conduct of the election. And throughout the election, what I had said, whenever I was asked, would I call for a recount if there were doubts about the credibility of the results, I always said yes. This is not about helping one candidate or hurting another candidate. This is also not about advancing my own career. You know, my campaign is not going to win here, although we might get a more accurate count of green votes.
You talk about not advancing, but Dr. Stein, you talk though about knowing that you won't win. President-elect Trump says that this is basically a scam. He said that this effort by you is going to fill her coffers with money, most of which she will never spend on this ridiculous recount. Does every cent of what you're fundraising for in the recount go to those efforts?
Yes, and that's what the voters are funding, and we're very clear about what is being funded. You can see the whole budget for it actually on our fundraising page. This funded itself overnight. We put out a press release and put up a website, and voters have voted with their pocketbooks here. An average $45 donation. Almost 140,000 donors have stood up to say we deserve an election system that we can have confidence in. And with 80% of American voters being very unhappy with the conduct of this election, this is like not rocket science that we need to shine daylight on the results. And remind you, we had already declared that we were going for a recount in Michigan even before we knew who the winner was. That meant that it would have been a recount with Hillary Clinton had she won. So that was only decided. So it's really clear we are not here with a partisan axe to grind. We're here as the American people to say we deserve a voting system that we have confidence in.
And
We've
Dr.
had a lot
Stein,
of hacking.
Dr.
A lot
Stein,
of hacking in this election, and we want to know that our votes have not been hacked.
You want to talk about hacking. We have Scott Walker in Wisconsin that's been tweeting about this, and specifically, though, saying that it's hard to justify a recount when the winner won by over 22,000 votes. I want to play what election officials in Wisconsin had to say today about the recount. Take a listen.
We're going to look back when this recount is completed and find that the system worked well. And I don't expect that the outcome will be qualitatively different than the recount at the Supreme Court, where we had a minimal amount of votes done.
When you talk about evidence of hacking, what do you have to prove that in the efforts that are taking place for a recount in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania?
The nature of hacking is that you don't see it if you don't look. You know, hear no evil, see no evil. And there is no evil. The point here is that we deserve an election system that has built-in safeguards. You wouldn't get into an airplane and first start thinking about, you know, your backup systems when the plane begins to suddenly lose altitude. You want a system which is secure from the get-go. This is an election in which there has been hacking and allegations of tampering all over the place. We know that the Democratic Party database was hacked into. We know that the voter databases in the state of Illinois, in the state of Arizona, and 20 other states allegedly had attempts to breach their security. We know that private emails were hacked. And we know that we have voting machines here. In Wisconsin, for example, they use voting machines which are illegal in California and which are in the process of being made illegal in Virginia and in Maryland because they are an invitation to tampering, to human error, and to hacking. You don't want to have the plane go down before you first start to check on backup systems to make sure we can have peace of mind. Voters don't come out of this election with peace of mind. We deserve to have peace of mind. This is a grassroots movement that takes a first step towards elections that we can have confidence in and which are for us.
Dr. Stein, with Michigan now going Donald Trump's way, that puts the Electoral College at 306 votes for him. Democrat Hillary Clinton has 232. Has your campaign been in contact with the Clinton campaign, and how will you work together over Michigan and potentially 2 other states in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania?
So after we had already filed, in fact, after the deadline had passed for Wisconsin, the Clinton campaign basically wrote on a blog through one of their staffers that they would be supporting the effort. It's not clear they're going to have a particularly active form of support. It may just be a passive form of support. We don't expect them to be drivers of this process. We're glad to have their support. We actually reached out to Donald Trump's campaign and to Gary Johnson's campaign, because this is not about who wins and who loses. This is about the American people having a voting system we can have confidence in.
So when it comes to the financing, though, do you know where all the money is coming from specifically, and who your largest donor might be? Are you creating a vulnerable situation for yourself, where you're being used as a puppet to? We are
following the laws of campaign finance. Mm-hmm. So the biggest possible donation is $2,700. We are not. This is not a big donor campaign. Mm-hmm. We are not setting up a $100,000 donation account, which was an option for us, and we declined that. We are declining even the state accounts of $10,000. So this is a small donor campaign. And in fact, it's only 0.5% of donors that are kicking in at the $1,000 level. The average donation here, and that's 0.5%, which are going to $1,000. So
right before this interview, Dr. Stein,
this is peanuts compared to what the 2 parties have been doing.
Where does the tally stand right now in the fundraising efforts? And then we have to go.
The last I saw was 6.2 million. So if people are interested, go to jill2016.com. This is just a first step. We need to end voter ID, ensure that we have a right to vote, ensure that we are informed as voters through open debates, and that we can vote in a voting system that allows us to bring our values and not our fears. Like the state of Maine, we need ranked choice voting. If your first choice loses, your vote automatically goes to your second choice. We can make improvements in our voting system.
Green Party candidate, Dr. Jill Stein, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it, and we will continue to follow your story.
Thank you very much.
Coming up next,